The NBA free agency and honestly the offseason as a whole has been a wild one. From LeBron James headed to the Sixers, Jaylen Brown getting traded to the Sixers, now forming a super team. LaMelo Ball getting traded to the Minnesota Timberwolves to go team up with Anthony Edwards. Giannis Antetokounmpo being traded to the Heat finally to go ahead and team up with Bam Adebayo. And obviously all the free agency signings that we've had so far and trades we've had so far. John Morant to the Trailblazers. We've had a lot in this free agency and offseason cycle. And usually right now we're coming up to August pretty soon. And usually at this point in free agency, we're pretty much seeing a lot of guys that either A, aren't going to get a contract right now, or B, like just a lot of vet minimum guys and older guys that just aren't really going to be in your rotation, really kind of just there to maybe be a vet presence on the bench and maybe play some spot minutes during the regular season, barring any injuries. But usually right now in the NBA offseason, and especially in free agency, we're not really seeing too many big names still be in free agency. But this year's a little bit different. This year is a little bit different. And I'm going to start off with probably the biggest guy still in the free agency market, Jalen Duren. Jalen Duren is still currently a restricted free agent under the Detroit Pistons, but it's looking like he really does not want to be there and he feels disrespected. And I can understand that. But at the same time, I can also understand the Detroit Pistons point of view. So there's been a lot of chatter throughout the entire offseason that Jalen Duren and the Detroit Pistons have been back and forth on these contract negotiations. Jalen Duren, he wants his max money. He wants all of his money and he wants it right now. And I mean, I think he's 22, about to turn 23. Maybe he is 23. Had an all NBA season. I believe he was an all-star, like had a really, really good regular season. But in the playoffs, he was regular. And in some cases, less than regular. Had a pretty abysmal playoffs from what we expected from him and his standards during the regular season. So from the Detroit Pistons standpoint, I can see like, hey, at this point, we're not really looking for the best regular seasons. We need the best playoffs. We need players that are going to elevate in the playoffs, not shrink. And especially if you're going to be our number 2 guy, our second best player, and we're going to pay you max money, like 50 million, 60 million a year. We need you to go into the playoffs and act like you know how to play basketball and more. We need you to be elite. We need you to be unstoppable. And if you're not going to be that for us and you weren't that for us in our past playoff run, then I'm not going to pay you max money. I'm going to give you, what is it? I think it's 3 years, 174. It's something like not too bad, but definitely not the max that Jalen Duren can get. But we're going to offer you this contract. And if you don't want to take it and you want to go somewhere else and find your max money, go ahead and find it. And we'll match it. That's cool. If the market says that you're a max player, we will match that 100%. But as it stands, that market is not matching that whatsoever. And it's really looking like Jalen Duren is probably going to have to either play on a qualifying offer or just go ahead and take his money, which, I mean, that risk is just super, super risky at this point. And, I mean, it's just kind of difficult to see where this situation lies in a favorable situation for Jalen Duren, because not a lot of teams have money anymore. Like the suitors at the start of free agency were like the Chicago Bulls and the Brooklyn Nets, but the Brooklyn Nets, they go out and get Julius Randle in the trade. That kind of eats up at that money. The Chicago Bulls, they go and trade for Nicholas Claxton and then sign Norman Powell. So that's their money kind of gone. And then you kind of look around the league like, who else really needs a center that can pay you that max money? I don't even think there's a single team that can do that, obviously without a sign and trade, but Detroit's not interested in a sign and trade. So that's kind of out of the window unless they're going to get some Godfather type of offer, but I don't think that's in the cards. So at this point, like there's only 2 options, and playing on a qualifying offer, is looking like it's probably going to be the decision for Jalen Duren. So, I mean, hopefully that works out for him, but in a lot of cases, it usually doesn't for a lot of players. And speaking of this qualifying offer, another player that might quite possibly play on that offer is Peyton Watson. Now, Peyton Watson, a little bit different. I think he only played 55 games last year. Before that, he hasn't really shown, a whole lot offensively, but this past year he had an offensive jump for sure. a little bit of shot creation, shot 40% for the year, being able to get to the rim. And obviously we know that he can defend at a super high level, almost an elite level. And he showed some really good promise, especially being next to Nikola Jokic and a Jamal Murray, being that number 3 option. And in some cases, when Jamal Murray is out, being a number 2 option. And, you know, he showed that, hey, I'm worth this. I'm worth X amount. Let's say I'm worth what, 25 million a year, maybe. I'm just spitballing, not really being too exact. I'm worth this, $25 million a year. I think he's earned the right to say, you know, this is my number. But Denver comes out and offers him, I believe, like 4 years, like 60 or 75, like something that's like, what are we doing? What are we doing? This kid is talented. But on the other side of that same coin, Denver's hands are kind of tied. Oklahoma City Thunder, they just recently went out and tried to sign Spencer Jones to a like 3-year, like 17 or something. Spencer Jones, a 2-year, $11 million contract. Obviously, Denver matches that, but that puts them as the only team projected to be above the second apron. So that their hands are kind of tied, obviously, money-wise. And as for Peyton Watson, I mean, the market may be there, but at the same time, Denver kind of has a leverage in this situation, because if they offer you a contract, we can just match it. We're already pretty much going to be over the second apron. So we're just going to match whatever money that you get and figure out whatever else we need to figure out. So unless that a team is going to say like, hey, we'll sign a trade for you, and our asking price is either 2 first-round picks or a first-round pick and a high-value player. If another team says, hey, we'll give you $25 million a year for however long and give up a high-value player and a first-round pick, or we'll give you whatever money you want and give up 2 first-round picks. If a team says that is worth it enough for them, then Denver wins in that situation. And honestly, both teams could possibly win in that situation. But as it stands right now, it's looking like Peyton Watson is another guy that's going to be playing on this qualifying offer. And it's just interesting. Like, I don't think we've ever seen a free agency, and especially a free agency like this with so much player movement and you know, players moving from team to team, for, you know, an all NBA guy and a guy like Peyton Watson to even consider playing on a qualifying offer. Because it's like any other free agency year, they probably would have been swiped up hours before free agency, and their teams would have been looked at for tampering. Like, Jalen Duren would have been got his money. Peyton Watson would have been got his money. But the way that the league is working right now, with the second apron and all of these penalties and, you know, taking away draft picks, and then especially with, you know, how the new lottery, nobody really knows how that's going to go. So teams are kind of, you know, trying to bulk up in margins to be able to compete. It's making the money super slim for these guys, and the market super slim for these guys, which makes the situation tough. So, I mean, just looking at, you know, the available free agents, and I want to go to kind of what inspired me to make this video. If I can find him really, really quickly, it was Brandon Williams. Let me see if I can find him. I don't know if he's on here, but Brandon Williams is still a free agent as I'm recording this video. Something could change, something could not change, but Brandon Williams is still a free agent. Any other free agency, Brandon Williams is probably getting like 3 years, 45, something like that. Like, Brandon Williams would get a pretty good contract to be either a starting point guard or a backup point guard on a really good team or a good team. Like, guys like him are still in this free agency. Johnathan Kuminga, who got traded in the middle of last year, but in the playoffs against the Knicks, like, he had some really, really good moments. So for a team to not even want to pick him up, it's like, it's weird. Like, it's really weird. Like, there's still a lot of talent left in this free agency pool, and we're in August at this point. Russell Westbrook, obviously older and, you know, whatever, but I feel like in any other free agency, this is a guy that would have been swiped up on a minimum contract easily. Like I said, Peyton Watson is still in this free agency class. Let me see if I can find anybody else. It was one other name. Yeah, there goes Brandon Williams. I mean, even Jeremy Sohan. Like, I feel like that was a guy, that would be somebody that they would take a chance on. That would be somebody that a team would be willing to take a chance on. But just the landscape of the league and the money of the league. Shit, even Bradley Beal, I know he's had his ups and downs recently. Benedict Mathurin, like this is a guy that was like an intricate part to a team that went to the NBA Finals, Game 7 of the NBA Finals at that. Multiple 20-point games, defending a little bit. Like these are really, really talented players, and they're still in free agency, some with even no market, and we're almost in August. Like the season's gonna be here before we know it, and these guys could still be in free agency. Like it's just absolutely nuts for me to imagine like Jalen Duren playing on a qualifying offer, Peyton Watson playing on a qualifying offer, Benedict Mathurin maybe not even being on a team, Brandon Williams maybe not even being on a team. Like this new NBA is nuts, and I'm gonna make a completely separate video on that. I got something cooking for that, so y'all be on the lookout. But like, this free agency is wild. It's absolutely wild, and like I said, I can see it from both sides. Like on the player side, it's like, hey, I want my money, and that's cool. I'm all for players going and getting their money, but on the other side, these GMs kind of had their hands tied with this second apron stuff. It's like, we want to stay under the second apron. We don't want the tax penalty. We don't want draft picks taken away from us, because as this new lottery and this new draft system is starting to come into play, like these picks are beginning to be more valuable. So we want to have as many draft picks as we can possibly have. So we don't want to lose those. So we had to stay underneath the second apron. So yeah, we may not be able to pay you, what you want right now, but obviously we still want you to be in our building, and we still want you to be a part of our team. This has easily been one of the craziest off seasons we've ever had, especially for player movement, but even just the off season in general. Like I said, all of these guys are still sitting in free agency. There's guys that were traded for like nothing, like John Morant, and even in the middle of last year, Trae Young really traded for not a lot. Like the way that teams are maneuvering to be able to compete and still be able to stockpile on draft picks, as many draft picks as possible. Like OKC, they've gotten like, I think 6 or 7 second round picks within the entirety of this offseason, trading away guys. So it's just going to be really interesting to see how these GMs maneuver to be able to A, compete, and B, stay out of that bottom 3 in this new lottery system. And I mean, if you ask me, this is going to be the most competitive the NBA has ever been.